The assemblies could make short work of all of this if they would simply get their people organized and elect their officials and elect their justices and fill up their jury pools and start operating their own courts. They could put this all to rest simply by doing that. But instead, what they do is they try to boot up a grand jury, and they think that that is going to be sufficient. And it's not. I have explained this from sea to shining sea and from Canada to Mexico. And once again, I find myself explaining it explicitly again. You have to have a court, a whole court. You have to have all four wheels in order to make the car go. And the grand jury is just one wheel. So you've got a unicycle, folks. I hope you can ride it. You know, you have to have your courts together. If you don't put your courts together, then you don't have the means to invoke Milligan ex parte and push aside the jurisdiction of these interloping foreign courts over your children, over your taxes, over mortgages, over all of this stuff. If you have your own courts, they're not allowed to say anything. But as long as you neglect to form your own courts, they can presume all they like and get away with murder. So how difficult is it really to bring together 30 people and form a court? It's not difficult. You're talking about a couple softball teams. Get motivated, do it. And stop trying to address these things without knowing what you're doing, because most likely you're just going to make the situation worse. So the easiest, fastest way out of all of these evils, mortgages, taxes, vehicle stops, child custody, all these evils that have descended upon us like flies can be overturned and changed simply by people getting their assemblies organized, by stepping up and serving in offices, by serving as jurors, by serving notice on the law enforcement officials and the governor and the president that yes, indeed, you have your civilian courts up and running. Do that and all the rest of it disappears. And I keep saying this, and somehow it just is not getting through to people. Oh, we can set up our own courts? Yes, you can set up your own courts. That's what you're supposed to be doing. And once you get your courts set up and you have a minimum of 2 full juries and 3 substitutes, which is what? 27 people? I mean, if you can't find 27 people to operate a court, you can see why the powers that be think that you're just blowing pipes in the wind.
When you say a court, are you equating that to a grand jury, or are those 2 different things? Because I think this is where some of the confusion is.
Well, you've got a grand jury and you've got a trial jury. You have to be able to fill those jury pools, which takes a minimum of 27 people.
Okay.
But yeah, realistically, you could run a court with 15. You have to elect your officers and you have to have your jury pools filled. That's it.
So that would be a justice, a court clerk, a
bail bondsman,
a marshal at arms, or a sergeant at arms, and
basically.
Jurors.
That's it.
That's it. What about a court administrator? What's the difference between a court administrator and a court clerk?
We don't really have court administrators in our courts. Our courts are The clerk serves as a secretary and record keeper. And the justice is there to make sure that, some reasonable and valid rules of evidence are followed so that everybody gets a fair hearing. The jury does all the work of examining the law and the facts of the case and making a determination. And then it's just a matter of pronouncing the sentence of the jury and enforcing it.
Isn't there investigation work prior to an actual trial where they substantiate the facts of the affidavit? Not the affidavit, I'm so sorry, the testimony?
Criminal cases, yes. If it's a civil case, it's just a matter of the parties being properly summoned and coming together and presenting their case.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of the assemblies are just trying to get their arms around the officers, their job descriptions, and whether it has to be a citizen or if it can be a national. There's lots of discussion going on in the background with regard to that. So,
well, the same rule applies. Is it an international issue or not? Is it something that's occurring in the state and totally within the state? I mean, is it between me and my neighbor Gary over his dog coming into my yard and attacking my cat? I mean, those kinds of things that are contained within the state and are just between people, that's all just stuff that can be handled by our courts and by our populace, generally speaking. But if it's a case where, the state of Kansas decides to move the border into what we think of as Missouri, well, then you've got a whole different realm of investigation and law and everything else. And, what's going to happen at a state level would be that all the Kansas state citizens would be standing there at the border, peering across at the Missouri state citizens. And things could get rather testy. So that's why you then take those kinds of disputes into a postal court.
Right. Okay. A postal court, a postal service area court. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Because that becomes an international land dispute.
Okay.
Links to Anna's articles and resources can be found in the video description box. Thank you for subscribing, liking and sharing. If you enjoy having Anna's latest articles made into videos, please consider making a purchase from Ed's website sacredintuitiveelements.com. Thank you.